Hello and welcome to episode 198 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of regular guys drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That's right, and this week we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of news, craziest stuff that's ever happened, I feel like. It is insane. I don't even know how to wrap my head around it fully, but we're going to do our best and try to see what the future holds. But first, each week we bring a beer, we drink it, we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap this evening? What are we drinking?
All right. Well, this week we have a beer from Caldera, has appeared on the show before and
Real quick.
impressed, I think.
Real quick. Steadfast is the name of the brewery. Caldera is the name of this particular beer.
Thank you. Steadfast. It's by
Yes.
Steadfast. It's called Caldera, and it is a hot pepper red ale. Now, the reason I'm nervous about this is that this is something I have had way too many of, is like spicy peppers and beer, because I love both of those things. And for years, every time I saw one, I'd be like, "Oh, awesome! I love both those things." And I order it, and it's always bad. I've never had one that I liked. So here we are with another one. There are a few differences. I feel like it's almost always an IPA that I've tried in the past. It's like a jalapeno popper IPA or something. And I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. There's no way it's going to be bad. And then it's terrible.
It's
And
horrible.
and this is a red ale, so it is taking, the best possible base for a beer, red ale, and building on top of that. And the other thing that gives me some glimmer of hope is that before having Steadfast's maple beer, I'd never had a maple beer that I liked, and that one was good. So maybe they can pull it off again. I feel like this brewery was just a bunch of people being like, why do all these beers always suck? Let's just take all the styles that always suck and make them not
And
suck.
make them good. Yeah. This one should be exciting. So they partnered with Miguel Angel Garcia, who is at Miguel is Cooking, and it's his pepper blend, I guess, that they're using for the beer. So they took someone else's or like pepper recipe and kind of added it to this beer. So that gives me hope about the peppers, but also makes me scared because I don't know if they're just sometimes collabs do not come together. And so
Does this mean,
I
like, did
am
Miguel
wary about it.
make this for the beer? Or is this just like what he puts on his tacos and
I
they were
think
like,
this is
I'm
what
gonna...
he puts on his tacos, and
Oh
and they
boy.
decided to use it. That's what it sounds like to me. Where it's like,
Okay.
hey, that your famous pepper blend, let's make a beer with it. That's what it sounds like to me
Now I'm nervous because it wasn't designed for beer.
for
It
the
was
beer.
designed
Yeah,
for something else.
I'm assuming. But
Yeah.
I will
That's
say that like my history with pepper beers is that there is a green chili beer that I had in my hometown, and that was closer to like a lager, I think. So it
okay.
really tasted like like a smooth, easy drinking beer that was kind of spicy in the finish. And it was greenish. And it was kind of strange, but me and my sister liked it a lot.
Okay.
Nobody
All right.
else did.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say.
there is that. But
Interesting.
anyway, so, I'm, cautiously optimistic about this thing.
All right.
So let's give it a shot. Let's see how this hot pepper red ale goes. Anyway, with that, we have some magic news. There is a Arena Direct event this weekend. It is Final Fantasy Play Booster Boxes, our favorite Arena Direct events, because you get to
Nice.
draft with all the cards that you get. So that is happening July 4th to the 6th. So check that out. I will probably be playing that on Friday before I have to go to work. So I'm excited for these. I do enjoy them. And
They are
they're,
really fun.
yes, especially when there's
And
prizes that you really want.
yeah, like sure, I could check a couple more boxes into my stack. No problem.
That's true. Currently, Jeff has some boxes that he's just trying to find time to actually draft them. So,
Yeah.
if you are
And a
in
couple that
this,
I have no idea what to do with because they're not even a thing that exists anymore, right? They were set boosters or
yes, yeah, set boosters are no longer, so you can't really play with them.
it's like
Open
I can't draft
them.
them and people aren't going to be psyched about them, I don't think, because they don't have a
They
thing. So.
People might be psyched about them. People loved set boosters, so
Eh,
that was a
let's
thing.
see if I can
But
sell them.
possibly. Um, Also, for the month of July, the qualifier weekend is July 19th and 20th, and that is the standard format, which recently got a huge shakeup. And that's what the whole episode is about, because there was a banned and restricted announcement on June 30th. And wow, was it a freaking bomb that went off.
Yeah.
Jeff,
What adjective would you use to describe this
ooh,
band
they were
announcement?
spicy bands. That's what they were, yeah.
See how it all comes together on this show.
Exactly. Oh, okay. Anyway, Jeff, how do you think we've ever had this many bands before for one format,
Like at the
like
same time?
at the same time?
Hmm.
Because I can't really remember the last time we had a ban announcement that was this many cards being banned from one format in a single article.
Yeah, I can't think of it either.
It's
Certainly not standard, right?
certainly not standard. Usually they just find a couple problems.
Yeah.
But with that, folks, 7 cards were banned from standard yesterday. This is after the Pro Tour, which we talked about all last week. We knew the ban announcement was coming, so we had also talked about the ban announcement. Cards we thought were going to get banned. I personally thought 1 or 2 cards might get banned.
Yeah. I we laid out what we kind of thought was going to happen, and I was definitely wrong in the sense that I wasn't
Yes.
expecting this. I think the one card that I said for sure will get banned did get banned, but everything else I said was wrong.
Yeah. Yes. And I wanted 1 card to get banned out of a package, but as we had kind of talked about, banning one of them banned the other one, so might as well just get the stronger card. But Jeff, would you like to read off the cards that were banned in standard as
All
of
right,
yesterday?
guys, you may no longer play the following cards in your standard decks: Corey Steelcutter, Abuelo's Awakening, Monstrous Rage, Heartfire Hero, Up the Beanstalk, Hopeless Nightmare, and This Town Ain't Big Enough. Well, surprisers.
Yeah,
Surprises at the end for me when I read that list. I
couple
was like,
surprises
fell
at
out
the
of my
end.
chair.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is that they wanted to ban the 2 top decks that were in standard, which are, is it would not ban the decks, but like pull them back quite a bit. Yeah. Is it
Man,
prowess, which Steel Cutter is a huge part of, obviously,
yeah,
and Mono Red, which Heartfire Hero, and then Monstrous Rage is between both of those decks is used in each of them, which was a huge part of the Pro Tour that just happened. And then the reasoning behind banning Abuelo's Awakening is that Abuelo's Awakening is a combo deck that uses Omniscience and to be reanimated from your graveyard to then play every card in your deck and draw your entire deck and then kill your opponent doing loops that are kind of lame. Not just like normal combo stuff, but I want to get into each of them, but I just wanted to quickly talk about what all they kind of were. Up the
yeah,
Beanstalk is a card that we've hated forever, or at least I have,
yeah,
because it helps stupid cheaty decks get cards, and I don't like that. And then the last 2 are the puzzling ones: Hopeless Nightmare and This Town Ain't Big Enough. Just seem to be cards that they're worried about certain decks popping up again afterwards that were never really huge problems but were big. They
yeah.
this ban really looks like, hey, we want to shake up standard so much. Like, we don't want to see anything that we expect to see, basically.
Basically, yeah, like almost like every deck that that people who are not insane played in standard was impacted by this.
Hmm.
Of course, all the decks I was playing, no changes required. But for people who are not crazy, they got hit by this.
Jeff, I think I had to delete like 12 decks.
Yeah, I didn't. No changes for me. Just I like go in to hit play, and it's like your last known thing. It was like,
Hmm.
do you want to play ranked standard again with this deck list? I was like, sure do. Jump right in. Didn't make any changes to the sideboard at first, and I was like, ooh, yeah, we're probably gonna have to remove all of this extremely targeted hate
Yeah,
for like
a
mono
specific
red.
deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but their explanations made sense. So this list actually was a bit of a shocker to me. Some of the things we talked about last week, I wasn't sure they were going to ban Corey Steelcutter. Like I acknowledged that there was potential for that, but I just thought it was like too soon. Like the card just came out,
It
so I
really
thought they
does feel
might
like
do
it.
everything they could to avoid banning it.
Hmm.
But they didn't. They just decided. They basically said,
You're getting rid of it.
"Card's too good for standard. Ban it."
Yeah. Jeff, can we please talk about what's so funny about the Corey Steelcutter banning too?
Of course,
We
yeah.
have to. So last week it was my birthday, and I get a really amazing card in the mail from Jeff that says happy birthday. I think in particular he said there's no excuse for you not to play in the PT now, and it had
Yeah.
4 copies of Corey Steelcutter in it. I was so excited. It was amazing. It was the best gift. It's exactly what I wanted. And I was like, sweet, now I can, play some of the best decks in standard. I hope it doesn't get banned on Monday.
Yeah.
I,
Lo and behold,
I think I had the cards for like 5 days, and
because your birthday was like Wednesday, right?
it
So it
was
was
Wednesday.
Wednesday and then to Monday
Yeah.
is when those cards were legal.
Yeah. And so I it was so funny. I just sent Jeff the band announcement with like a tear
Yeah.
eye emoji. Just like, no.
Like, well, I guess I got you nothing for your birthday.
But no, it was actually hilarious, but like oh god, it just made the sting of the band announcement like so strong.
See, I
But
was
at least
actually trying to sneak it in there ahead
Mhm.
of the ban announcement so that you would get your 4 wild
Yes.
cards from Wizards. They would just
Oh, there we go.
here's 4 rares,
That's
Zach.
true. They do
Yeah.
just send those to you in the mail.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I figured those will be on their way. They're probably in
Yeah.
transit now, and you can exchange those at any LGS for any 4 rares that you would like.
Perfect. Man, if only that's how Magic worked. That'd be crazy. Um,
Yeah.
Counterfeit ones would be everywhere. It would be insane. Actually, no, because the prices would just tank. Nobody would care. Um,
Yeah.
but
It would just destroy the economy.
ugh. But no, that was quite funny. And now I'm looking at Pioneer deck list to use those Corey Steelcutters. I'm
Yeah,
keeping those babies.
before they get
Absolutely.
banned there.
Then I'll have to play Modern, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway,
You just keep moving down the chain.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
how Zach becomes like a legacy player.
Exactly. I start playing Legacy because I have the Corey Steelcutters. But anyway, that was just hilarious to me. Absolutely.
Yeah. I knew when I was buying them that that was a risk, but I was like, but this is the right gift. Like
Yeah,
this is
it
his
was
card.
it
So
was great. But no, anyway, so that's why I've
so
just
maybe
been
part of
laughing.
me also just wanted it not to get banned for that reason too. Because normally I wouldn't care because I don't play it. So it's
Exactly. Well,
like,
that's why I was so surprised that we were talking last week and you're so insistent that it wasn't going to
oh
get
yeah.
banned.
I
And
was like, you'll
I
find
think
out why
there's
tomorrow. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I think there's a pretty strong chance that it could. I don't want it to, but it could. But anyway, so the cards that I'm the saddest about are the ones that I have copies of, which is Corey Steelcutter, Monstrous Rage, and Heartfire Hero.
Yeah.
Those are all decks I was playing. Those are cards I really like, and they're all getting relegated to Pioneer Land. You know, rightfully so. I think for those ones, nobody. I honestly, I don't think I've talked to a single person who's like upset like I am. I'm actually sad that some of these cards are gone. And so many people are like, "Oh, I'll play standard again now. Oh my god, all this
Yeah.
shit's gone? Fantastic." And I'm like, and then I tell them the story and I'm like, "But I'm so sad." And then they just kind of laugh. They're like, "Oh, sorry, buddy."
Anyways, standard doesn't suck now.
Anyways, yeah, standard's awesome.
So let's talk about those three cards first, then, and their
Yeah.
reasoning. Because I think if you look at this list and your takeaway is like, "What? They banned Monstrous Rage?" Like you're
Mhm.
crazy. Like maybe if they only banned these three cards, you could be like, "Oh, did they really need to ban Rage and Hero?"
And
But
the
when you
yeah.
look at this list, like
Hmm.
there's bigger fish to fry in terms of like asking questions here.
Exactly.
So these three, no brainers. So what was their reasoning? Corey Steelcutter, they literally
Hmm.
said the power level of the card is too high for standard. It is just
Yes.
better than all the other standard cards by a little bit. And it's
That
not what
is,
they're targeting,
yeah.
right?
And they just like missed the mark on that one. It should have been more expensive, basically. And
Yeah. It should have
that's
been a little harder to get your 2-for-1 out of it, which is
mhm.
a theme that we're going to come back to later because there are other cards on this list that have that same problem. And
Yeah.
it seemed like they were really targeting that in particular. The whole like a lot of standard play is like, well, there's nothing I can do about that without going down a full card, right?
Hmm.
Like, and that's a little crazy
Yeah.
for a 2-mana card.
Hmm.
Like, if it's a 5-drop that you have to go down a card to deal with, that's a different story. But when it's a
Hmm.
2-drop, it's like, come on, they
It's like,
invested nothing, and
hmm.
it's just like a free 2-for-1 at worst. Like, if they remove it. If they
Hmm.
don't remove it, they lose. So
Yeah.
it's like, um, I get it. I was kind of a like I don't necessarily think that Corey Steelcutter is the problem. I think we have way too many good cheap cards and they keep printing more. And it's
Hmm.
like if that's what you want standard to be, but they say even in this article that's not what they want standard to be. So
Hmm.
I agree that this card is like that's the world we live in. There are currently a lot of very, very good cheap cards, and so Core Seal Cutter is going to be even more awesome than it usually is. And so
Yeah.
just ban it because you also have to worry about printing cheap cards in the future.
It's true.
I think all that makes sense, and it probably is just too strong for
Yeah.
standard. I get that too. So that one's fine. Monstrous Rage, we talked about it last week,
Hmm.
and I was basically saying they kind of have to ban this just because people hate it so much. Like people just want it gone.
Hmm.
And I think that's all that's going on here. I think
Hmm.
they basically reiterated almost everything we said, which is it's actually nice to have one of the strongest cards in standard be a
A
pump
pump
spell.
spell.
I
Yeah.
really like that.
Hmm.
It's just that this one, it's just a little too, like, it's a little too tweaked,
Yeah.
and people are just sick of it. And that's basically what they said too, is it's
Hmm.
just run its course. People are
Yeah.
tired of losing to Monstrous Rage.
Yeah. And in a normal standard cycle, it would rotate,
Mhm.
right? So
Uh,
this is
right, because it's
because
would it, or has it
normally
only been around a year?
it was around for 2 years, right? Because it was Wilds of Eldraine.
Oh, right, Wilds of Eldraine. Okay.
Yeah. So this last year was Bloomborough. It was the year before
It was the year
Bloomborough.
before Blueborough, right?
And so now that we're doing 3 year standard, the rotation's only getting rid of Dominaria United, which was before Wilds of Eldraine.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of their conversation with a lot of these cards is like, yeah, we are still learning how to make cards for a 3 year standard, and
Totally.
making too many cheap cards is one of the things. There's more sets than ever now, so they just have to know how to dial some of that stuff back. Which I like when they just kind of say, "Hey, we are also figuring out how this works." Now, do they always say that? Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sort of
they,
the go-to excuse.
yeah. But I think it's a pretty good one. So
Yeah,
I
the
don't
reality is like designing magic sets is difficult and
really
they're
hard.
they're gonna make mistakes.
Exactly. And so I think that those two make sense. Heartfire Hero in the same similar situation. It's in the mouse package. If you get rid of one of the cards in the mouse package, it makes it harder to do the rest of them. It was the 1-drop that goes into the 2-drop that gives the double strike and stuff. it obviously seemed like the one where you were just really unhappy to see it on turn one. So getting rid of this one and now making red decks basically play Hired Claw and then Monastery Swiftspear, and then you're kind of searching for your third one drop. So
Yeah, and we talked about that before, like just having the de facto best one drop in the format. Um, it just reduces the number of interesting things you could do. So,
totally.
the example we used was maybe you wanted to play mono red, but you wanted to start your engine's mini package of
Hmm.
the one drop and
And the
Hazoret.
Bastron Knot and Hazard, yeah.
But you just like, why would you do that? Because you're just killing yourself in that one drop slot.
Hmm.
Um, and so it opens up a bit of diversity. And they said in the article they considered like only banning one of these two cards, Rage and Hero, and they were kind of back and
Hmm.
forth on which one, because like Hero's kind of the better card, but Rage is the one that people are more tired of seeing and stuff like that. And eventually we're just like, just ban both. People are sick of both, even though
Hmm.
Heartfire Hero hasn't been around that long.
Yeah.
It's people are just tired of the mouse package, kind of to your point,
Hmm.
being always the best thing to do in mono red.
Yes. Because they want mono red to be around. I don't think anyone agrees that mono red should go away, but it is an issue when mono red is the best deck or is the fighting for the top constantly. It's nice to have mono red as something to keep people in check. It's
Mhm.
not always fun when mono red is like, oh well, should have played this deck, I guess.
Especially not like for years, right? Like,
Yes. But yeah, so there's no real surprises with like the red cards that got banned. The other ones were a little bit more surprising. I mean, I guess the last card that I was like on the list, I was like, sweet, happy to see this one, was Up the Beanstalk. That's a card that
mhm.
we've talked about for a while. Brian Kibler called for that card to be banned a while ago, and everybody kind of jumped on that bandwagon. And he had a lot of good points. And there's just, I think that it being able to draw a card when it enters the battlefield and then filling up your hand by just cheating mana costs. That's the only thing that the card really does. It's not. I mean, we were talking right before the show started about how if that card just said that you had to spend 5 mana on a spell to get the card, just like all the ones in the like Final Fantasy set that say if you spend 4 or more mana on the on creature spells or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
then it would totally be fixed and it would not be anywhere. So like it would not be really a constructed card, but at least it would do what the function seems like it's supposed to do. At least to
Yeah. I mean,
what I think what it was supposed to do. I don't know.
since this thing came out, the whole like this into the one mana flash,
Leyline binding.
yeah, leyline binding, like that's always felt so ridiculous. Like
Hmm.
they get to spend one mana at instant speed, exile your thing, draw a card.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And now
Um,
you have a removal spell for enchantments. Do I get my thing back or do I blow up the thing that's going to give you more advantage later? Like,
exactly. And I think it would definitely be fixed, right? There's a lot of ways to fix it. You could, uh, at the very least, add the rider that it can only trigger once each turn, because that's the thing
hmm
that gets me when they're just like popping off, playing 1 and 2 mana spells and just like cycling
yeah.
through their deck. And you're like, this feels ridiculous. Um, but even that wouldn't be enough. Like I think you need to actually confirm that they're make casting a large spell.
Hmm.
Um, or, you know, the other big part of the problem of this card that I alluded to earlier is there is no way. This is an absolute engine card for the decks that run it, and there's no way to deal with it at parity
Hmm.
because they draw the card immediately.
Yeah. They
So
always
I have
have.
never found a way where I'm happy with the interaction to get it off the table. It's always like I feel like I have to do this or I'm
Yeah.
just going to lose.
You're just like
Because
eating your
starting next
vegetables.
turn, every
Hmm.
card they casts cantrips.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I want to ask you about this card actually, because there's kind of two variants that we see. And I think they're both present at the Pro Tour. I can't remember if like there's the domain one that we were talking about with like Leyline Binding, which now is more overlords and stuff. We see
Yeah.
overlords significantly less than we used to. It used to be a gigantic thing around Aether Drift. That's I think Corey Steele really helped keep that like knock that down.
Right.
But the other deck that we see that isn't like five color, just fully cheat on stuff, is like the Golgari deck, which is like a graveyardy
Mm.
strategy with a bunch of like junky uncommons from like draft uncommons that also happen to just be expensive spells that get cheaper when you have a bunch of cards in your graveyard or exile. Like that deck doesn't exist without Up the Beanstalk because it can't
No.
do it. It just cannot go toe to toe with people. It's all their cards are too expensive and too dumb.
Yeah, and you don't get the payoff really for
Hmm.
doing it because like even when you get the card's 6 mana cheaper than it should be, the investment you put into it just isn't on par with
Hmm.
standard if you're not cycling through it and then having those crazy turns where you play like
Yeah,
five things.
you play a bunch
Um,
of them, and then you make your opponent discard cards, and then you get to attack them with a bunch of like menacing five fives or whatever.
yeah, I was always fine with Up the Beanstalk in that deck because, like you said, just like can't operate without it, and it
Hmm.
felt like the fair up
Version.
version of Up the Beanstalk because they
Hmm.
only get to do it when they achieve their goal, when they get there,
Hmm.
when they turn the thing on.
That's true.
The other deck was like, oh, I'm gonna play my um, whatever, like my ramp spell, which
Hmm.
is a 3 mana sorcery that goes to
Hmm.
get that creates this land for my deck. And for some reason that triggers my thing that is only supposed to pay me off for getting to the ramps,
Hmm.
getting to the target of casting big spells. But this deck, everything you cast triggers it,
Hmm.
even on your road to like getting to where you want to be, and that's what makes it so stupid.
Yeah.
And so Up the Beanstalk, I think it's just not designed well. I think they needed to change something about it. I
Yeah.
think the idea of the card is fine. Like this is a draw engine for decks that want to go big, so it pays you off for
Later in the
getting there.
game.
Because part of the
Hmm.
problem with those decks is, oh, I have to spend all of my resources staying alive,
Hmm.
and then my one big spell just doesn't really cut it anymore in
Hmm.
today's game.
It has to be good enough. Yeah, and it's
And
just
so
not.
this is like, here's an early play that helps filter your draws. It helps like keep you,
Moving.
running
Hmm.
because you need to interact. You need to have lands every turn. You need to find
Hmm.
your big spells. And once you get there, it's not just like, well, I hope this one haymaker gets me there because it'll help keep the
Hmm.
cards flowing. So I think the idea of that card is fine, but the design just wasn't executed
Yeah.
correctly.
And I don't even know if it's, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Corey Steelcutter, where it's like there's so many good cheap cards. They will not stop printing cards that are expensive that get cheaper that are good. They just keep
Right.
doing it. They will not. And so them writing a thing being like, hey, we need to learn how to like, I don't know, design for a 3 year standard. Yes, because you need more people who are in there trying to break the format all the time and could say, "Hey, remember when you printed this one card that's really good? We need to not print in every single set a bunch of great cards that all get cheaper. Like
Yeah.
switch it up so it does the other thing where it's like its mana value is one, but it actually costs five more unless you sacrifice a creature or whatever. That type of spell that we see often. That's the opposite of the cheap one, big one that gets cheaper. It's the cheap one that gets bigger unless you do something else. So I don't
Totally.
know.
And they even said in this write-up about Up the Beanstalk that they were trying to design or in future sets, like they're designing right
Hmm.
now, or I guess were a few months ago or whatever, more cards that do this kind of thing. And they felt hamstrung by Up the Beanstalk because
Hmm.
its presence in the format made them feel like they can't do the things that they want to do. And it was a little alarming because it's like
Hmm.
you want more expensive cards that
They get
have some way
cheaper.
to cheat the mana cost, even though this comes back time and time again
That's
to
always an
like
issue.
to mess up formats. Um, but all right, but then it's another good point of like just get rid of it then.
Hmm.
Like even the people who like this card and play it all the time, like this isn't all it does is draw cards. All it does is
Hmm.
just like, it's not it's an sort of engine card that kind of makes things possible, but it's not the cool part of any deck, right?
No.
It's just like a draw engine that's a little too good.
And it's kind of the draw engine that you kind of have to play. It's like when you're looking at other things that you could play instead, you kind of always
Yeah,
come back to, well, why don't I just play Up the
this
Beanstalk?
isn't
And
going to draw as many cards as Up the
hmm
Beanstalk. Exactly. Like, and that's what we keep kind of coming back to in this list is
hmm
it it becomes a de facto option that you feel like you have to play whenever you want to do something cool, and it's a little too good, and that's kind of
hmm
just what we're seeing so far. I think we'll start to exit that
Yeah, I think we kind of exit it at
that
this
template. Yeah,
about
right
this
now,
moment. This is the key piece. So
I
Corey
think
Steelcutter,
Abuelo's
Monstrous
Awakening, you
Rage.
could make an argument that it's like if you want to be doing this kind of thing, you're always going to play this card. But
It's
um,
true. So let's actually, like, I was just gonna say Corey Steelcutter, Monstrous Rage, Heartfire Hero, and Up the Beanstalk are all the ones that seemed like, yes, these should go. Corey Steelcutter, I didn't want it to stay, but that was, my own personal feelings. But
yeah,
Abuelo's Awakening, this card, I just want to read this card again because I feel like I maybe read it one time and then just always just didn't look at it ever again, and then just saw it when it came up and just knew what it does.
it's
But
because when they cast it, you lose usually. So it's
that's
like
exactly,
I
yeah.
don't even really need to know exactly what this card does. I just know that I lose.
But the thing is, like, it seems like a cool card. So it's like X3 white for
Seems like a
sorcery.
bad card when I first read it. I was
It
like,
looks
well, this
really
isn't going to
bad.
see any play.
It's like 4 mana plus X, and says return target artifact or non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with X additional +1/+1 counters on it. It's a 1/1 spirit with flying in addition to its other stuff. So it's like, oh, cool. Reanimate artifacts and enchantments, which is very flavorful for what it's happening in the story. It seems like a story card. It looks like a commander card that's like, hey, this is
Yeah.
just a cool commander beat or whatever. And then it started getting traction because Omniscience was printed in Foundations. And what it seems like to be, obviously this is an annoying thing where like they cast this, they play Omniscience, you try to kill the Omniscience 1/1 token, they play the other Omniscience. Like or they hold priority so that they while the other one's on the stack, you then have priority to kill it. But and it always seems to just like kind of go that way, or it's just really an annoying deck to play against. It's the kind of combo thing that like once they start comboing, like you technically should sit through it because they could whiff and never get there, but oftentimes
Yeah.
they're just cycling through their entire deck. And there's like loops with their after we got into like Tarkir Dragonstorm, they can loop their the coiling Dragonstorm with their Meringue River regions and stuff to draw their entire deck and bounce all your shit and keep bouncing stuff. And it's just such an irritating combo to watch at the end. And then they eventually just mill you out by playing the same enchantment over and over again, which is what combo decks do. And I know that, but it doesn't make them any cooler. You know, like it just
Yeah.
always,
It's not my
always.
thing. It's not for me.
Mhm,
I get why they want, and they even said again, and I keep, bringing this up, so we touched on it a little bit, but maybe it's
mhm.
worth actually just straight up saying I really appreciated the write up. I think Jay
Yes.
Dean wrote it. Jay Dean Klumparens.
Yeah, I think there's actually a couple different people that were, but yes, for the standard
But for
version, I think,
standard in particular, I mean,
yeah, I think it was JD.
because they were very transparent
Hmm.
and it just kind of logically laid out the decision-making process and if information that, maybe they would normally would be tight-lipped about, like, oh, we were considering mechanics that would play well without the beanstalk in the future or something.
Hmm.
Like they just said it because it's like, let's just be open about this. And um, I thought everything made sense. I don't know if it's exactly what I would have done, but I
Hmm.
thought after reading it, I was like, okay, the list actually does make sense. And the only thing with Abuelo's Awakening is like, I don't know, maybe we should have just banned Omniscience.
That
Um,
is the big conversation piece. Why are we banning the cool, weird, funky card that
yeah,
could have some interesting like why ban Zombify when you're playing Atraxa? You know,
right.
why do that? This is like a
Yeah.
funky, weird build around that could be a really cool brew for somebody. It's like imagine if like you were playing your Dubious Challenge deck, and instead of banning the card that you got with Dubious Challenge, they just ban Dubious Challenge.
Yeah, they
And
leave Emrakul, but
mhm,
Dubious Challenge gets the
it's
axe.
like that's kind of what this feels like, right? Where
Yeah. And I'm not sure what Omniscience brings to the table. Like
mhm,
it sells a dream. It's like, whoa,
mhm,
that's crazy. And it seems super cool. But anyone who's actually played against Omniscience, it knows that it's not cool. It just
mhm,
means you lose and their deck is built in such a way that they just chain like cards forever until they find some
mhm.
dumb loop that kills you. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's just not a cool card, really. It reads cool, but in
Mhm,
my opinion, it's not like it's I don't know. I don't really think Omniscience the card has many redeeming qualities. Obviously,
mhm.
people like it because they keep kind of bringing it back.
Yeah.
But
And it,
I don't understand why this isn't what's getting the axe. Because on top of everything, the real problem with this deck is that there is no window for you to kill the Omniscience because
mhm,
it's a 1/1. Like it's
mhm.
easily killed. But there's
But
no window for you to kill it before they can
they
play another
def-
Omniscience
or whatever
or
spell,
like
yeah.
defend it with
Mhm,
whatever, right? Like they have counter spells or they just have a second Omniscience that they
mhm.
immediately slap down. And this one is now an enchantment and not a
And
1/1,
not
and
a
it's
one
much
one.
more difficult to interact with.
Mhm.
And there's just not a time when you could do that
Yeah.
because the
And
Omniscience is just in play, and then the next
yeah.
one's just in play. You don't have any priority.
And when they
And
have two
so
omniscience, like when they have two in play, all their cards are double free, and that's even more
I know
infuriating.
it's just irritating. I don't think Abuela's Awakening is the problem. I think it's kind of neat that it can bring
Hmm.
back these huge enchantments, but it has a pretty huge downside of turning them into creatures, which people normally like. People have difficulty interacting with enchantments and
Hmm.
tons of ways to interact with creatures. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Like it makes it seem like, hey, cool, you get to bring back this thing and it's a creature now and you get to attack with it, but really it's actually a downside of the card.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I feel like omniscience is just sitting there to be like there. And Ham Hawks 42 talked about this on his stream. So, and he's a big proponent for omniscience should have been banned and it shouldn't have been a Abuela's
okay.
Awakening. Because he's like, this is just, we're just waiting for the new card that breaks omniscience, basically.
Yeah, and it's never fun. No one's ever doing
Mm-mm.
anything fun with omniscience in a
Yeah,
competitive setting,
exactly.
right?
It's just
Like,
like Grizzlebrand. Like why we're just waiting for the next. Why you're banning the cards that bring
and
Grizzlebrand
you just
back?
have to worry about it every time you print a
Hmm.
new kind of fun card that can do
Exactly.
this. So I understand the reasoning, and the reasoning for that Abuelos got hit is
Hmm.
basically there were three ultra linear decks dominating the standard Pro Tour
Hmm.
that all just want to do their own thing and win the game on turn four.
Hmm.
If we just ban two of those three, well, the last one is just going to take over the format.
Exactly.
And so let's just get rid of all of them.
Yeah. So this one I don't really know about.
But I think it should have been Omniscience. And I don't know why
I
it's not. I know that the people that were working on this decision, like,
mhm.
Jay Dean, they also probably understand that.
They 100%
So
do. There's no way they
there's
don't.
there's something else going on about that they didn't mention in the article because
Hmm.
that's the one thing about the openness of the article. I wish it had addressed more clearly why omniscience wasn't the target
Yeah.
because it just kind of explained
Why?
why the deck needed to go basically,
Hmm.
but not why was this the card.
Exactly. Yeah, and I really hope that like there other cards in standard that could be cheating out omniscience. Whether people will move on to those ones or not, I don't really know. Um, and we'll be waiting for it in the future. But one thing is omniscience is would be the first foundations card to be banned. And I think they want to try to keep foundations cards like a safe investment, I guess, for 5 years, right? That's the kind of one of the purposes of that entire set.
That's what I was thinking too. Like it has to just be because it's foundations, but I don't think
Hmm.
that's a good enough reason
I think it's
personally.
a bad reason. I think it's a
Yeah.
very plausible reason that they would do this, but I don't think it's a good one. I could see them being like, we want to make sure that Foundations cards are, because like a big part of their 3-year standard is we want to make sure that you don't feel like cards are going to get banned from under you, except for they just banned 7 cards, and some of them are just kind of for fun, like
Yeah.
so. And I'm all for like changing things up and churning the system or the meta or whatever when things get stale. But it is interesting that they did this. Their ban announcement was, all right, we're doing this a month before the next set comes out. We're doing it a month before rotation comes out. Let's just make sure, instead of sending out an article that says, there are no changes, you have another month of this. We're hoping that Edge of Eternities and rotation will fix the problems. And they decided not to do that. So I think that's probably good. Right? But I don't know if you want to make people like, as a personal thing, if you want to make people feel comfortable investing in your format, banning 7 cards from the most popular decks is a hard way to do that. Instead of banning 1 or 2, like being like, hey, all the decks that you could have played, they're all kind of pushed aside or changed. Well, in this case,
like obvious.
this deck is dead. The
No,
Omniscience deck is
there
gone.
is no deck now. I mean, there will be an Omniscience deck at some point in the next
But it's not
5
the
years or whatever.
Azorius one.
It's
That's-
not Azorius Omniscience combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like playing a bunch of the same cards in it? I don't know, but anyway, I just
Obviously, this isn't what you want to do, right? You want to make no bans.
well,
when
you
you're imagining into the
wait.
future. But
If you're making a card game, you want to make cards that people think are really exciting, interesting, and fun with zero
Yeah.
power creep, always balanced. You can play any deck you possibly want, and everyone buys all the cards constantly, and you never have any financial issues, and everybody loves everything. And
I
people,
don't know why they don't just do that. To be
why don't
honest,
they just do that?
yeah.
Obviously, that's what they would hope.
I should
for,
message
it's just-
Mara. I don't think he's thought of that.
Yeah. Hey, what if you just made everyone happy?
Yeah, all the
And he
time,
would quickly say,
consistently.
people have different ideas of what makes them happy. And
Yeah,
so,
literally not possible.
yeah, impossible.
Yeah, this was the big puzzle for me though. Like Whale's
Mm-hmm.
Awakening is kind of like really, and they're again the way what they said is like,
This was the biggest puzzle. This wasn't that big of a puzzle to me. I think a couple.
well,
of the
it
other
was
ones,
it was a big eyebrow raise. I mean, it's
Sure.
like I know why this card is gone, but the eyebrow raise is like, why isn't the other card that's kind of clearly the problem?
Yeah.
And I guess it's just what you're saying. It's just that it's
Mm-hmm.
foundations. But I wanted to touch on your point about like you don't want to ban so many cards. I would prefer they do this though than just like leave this deck alive and let it
Yeah.
just dominate.
Or slowly one by one ban one piece over the next
Right,
3
and
or
be
4
like, is that
months.
enough? No. Is that enough? No. Is that enough? So once you've gotten to the state that I think Standard was in, which is it's not a diverse format, and the play patterns are repetitive and people don't enjoy them.
Yeah.
I think you got to do something like this. So I'm glad they kind of actually wielded the ban hammer. Um, to your point, there are some question marks coming up. But then to the other thing you said, like people are saying they'll play standard again now, right?
There's-
So
Those are the only comments I'm getting. No one is
Right.
telling me that they're not playing standard anymore because they can't play Corey Steelcutter.
yeah, like,
Everyone
what? I
is
can't
playing.
like cheat out omniscience on turn 3 and like just win the game on the spot. This format sucks.
Yeah,
Like,
that's not.
you
what
should
the-
never really have been able to do that. That's a modern thing, or that's
Yeah.
that's not for standard.
Yeah. And so as they're figuring out what do we want standard to be about, I think that's a good call. And they've decided that they also want to make sure that, so they want standard not to be this like spell slingy deck that also is way too aggressive, that has like perma, like combat tricks that give perma trample. They don't want like these combo decks that are degenerate and annoying. And they also don't want people to play pixies anymore. They don't want you to play nurturing pixie because Hopeless Nightmare is way too busted.
Yeah, so in terms of just reading the list, the eyebrow rate really raised here.
Mhm.
So at the hopeless nightmare in this town ain't big enough. I actually think their argument in the article for hopeless nightmare is good. And I was like, I'm a little surprised that you did it,
Mhm.
but I agree.
Yeah.
Um, and basically what they said is like, okay, we're banning all the best decks. Pixie decks were the best before these
Mhm.
things kind of happened. It obviously is just going to sort of very quickly turn to Pixie decks are the best.
Yeah.
We want to do something to them. They do not want to ban Pixie itself, obviously, because that's an option. You don't want Pixie decks ban Pixie. It's a two
Mhm.
mana, it's a 2/2 flyer for one with
One for one.
upside.
Mhm.
Like, come on, that's a little crazy. But they don't want to ban that.
Yeah.
So because probably because people like it. I don't know.
Well, no, because they also have a bunch of other pixies and people love them. Like they have there's nurturing pixie, but then they just printed a new version, a 2 mana one in Final Fantasy. Like there's just too many of them. Like
Right.
they just decided that
But
this
but
was
I
a
think if you just ban Nurturing Pixie, like
it would be super
that could,
helpful,
yeah.
but
The
I
one
think
mana 2/2 flyer that like may also is going to make me discard a card or like kill one of my creatures is like, well, that's real pushed.
yeah. But the
So
two
you could
mana
just make the argument
flash
that
2/1 that does the same thing. I don't know.
two mana is a whole other ball game. I'm
I
always fine
understand.
with two mana.
I know it's a different ball game. I love mana like one mana things. I know that two is twice as much as one.
Do
But
you? Because it doesn't sound like you do.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that I am saying that I agree with the Hopeless Nightmare one and that banning the Nurturing Pixie would not do what you would want it to do.
Yeah. And I've even just lost games to them just like playing pixies. They
Mhm.
just have like 3/2/2 flyers from like picking up other pixies and like dumb shit like that. I'm
Yeah.
just like
Well, they can't pick up
embarrassing.
pixies, but yeah.
Or sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, but you know what I mean, like picking up
Yeah. Something.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but basically what they said is they want to damage that deck, they don't want to ban it. And so what they picked was Hopeless Nightmare, and part of the
Mhm.
reason is the play pattern just sucks. Like
It
it's
does.
just not fun to play against at all.
Hmm.
Where when they get like a couple hopeless nightmares and like a pixie or two
Hmm.
going in, you just discard your hand and you're just in top deck mode to kill like a Windrake that's gonna fucking
Hmm.
kill you in, you know, 10 turns, or I guess probably only like 4 turns because of all the
Hmm.
hopeless nightmares.
That's
Um,
I think a big part of it. If Hopeless Nightmare didn't make you lose life, I think it would be not a completely different thing, but I think Hopeless Nightmare might have skirted a ban. It
I'm
would
not
be
even sure it's playable, to be honest, if it doesn't make you lose the 2 life.
I completely agree
Yeah.
because most of the times those decks win because they just cycle the Hopeless Nightmare. They never even have to attack through whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
And you just like discarding cards sucks. And
hmm.
when you just know, like we've all been there, I think, where you get kind of locked, where
Hmm.
your hand is like some lands and then some bigger spells that could help you get back into the game.
But you
But you
can't.
have to you have to discard either one or the other. And so you just kind of get screwed. And you always discard the land and you never draw one. Anyone notice
Exactly.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's I think that's fine. Like if you want to hurt the deck but not ban it, and you want to pick the card that is the least fun to play against, I think Hopeless Nightmare is a totally fine choice for that.
I think it's super fine and yeah, I don't hate seeing it gone. I was just surprised,
I
but
was surprised too.
the fact that
Um,
they kind of looked at the entire list and they're like, what could be the next things? And they actually did go and ban stuff from all of them is crazy.
yeah, I was a little surprised too because like I personally almost never lose to Hopeless Nightmare because my decks either don't care or actively want to discard cards.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh yes, I shall discard with my Inti on the battlefield. That's not a
Hmm.
problem.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I take two, you take eight.
Hmm.
Like, so I've just never cared about this card. And almost like I've liked that matchup and I'm always like, oh great. The other hand is a bunch of hopeless nightmares. They're
Hmm.
fucked. Um, but I totally get what they're saying. That sometimes you do get into that weird lock where you're just like, oh, this just sucks. It's just like, a Windrake and a couple of hopeless nightmares, and it
Hmm.
feels like there's nothing I can do.
Yeah. It also kind of puts you in a weird situation where it's like, okay, well, if that's the best deck, then I want to play a graveyard deck because discarding stuff will be great. And then there's
Yeah.
so much great graveyard hate that you're
Just
like,
rest in
well,
peace in that
yeah,
in
you're like,
in that
oh,
deck.
sick. Okay, so now I'm discarding cards to exile. This is awesome. So it's you don't get to have the same kind of balance. Um, so yeah, fine to see it gone. And then
I'm
the
I'm
fine,
fine with this. I wouldn't have done it though, but I'm fine with it.
I probably wouldn't have done it either. And then this town ain't big enough. This town,
That
another.
one's like the
This is the
this one is the like
okay. Like
what?
I've heard people like I've heard pros on their podcasts talk about how this town ain't big enough. I don't know, 5 months ago that's the best card in standard. One of the, I've heard that those like claims, but
I think
like
that was wrong even then.
I
But
felt
it's
like
it's
it
something
too.
you can claim. Like it's good, I guess.
You can claim whatever you want. It's like the
Yeah,
classic
sure.
like, oh yeah, Basic Island is the best card in Magic or whatever.
I
But
think
like
that's a hot take, right? Like if you say this town ain't big enough, it's the
yeah,
strongest card in standard. It's a hot take. That's
yeah,
not
it's true. It's true. That's really what they're doing. But
yeah.
like, I'm just saying that like it didn't come out of nowhere where it's like, oh, it's not a card that wasn't on my radar for that's a strong card. And a lot of these kind of back then there was a little bit more of like a Demir Pixie style deck that was kind of going around, and this town ain't big enough was doing the impersonation of the Pixie.
Sure.
While also disrupting your opponent. Their reasoning for banning this is because in Is It Prowess decks, you can loop it with Storm Chaser's talent, and that's really annoying,
Yeah.
which is true.
Uh-huh.
But it also just is a cool thing that Storm Chaser's talent can do. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a degenerate thing to me. It seems like, yeah, isn't it cool that my deck does this cool thing? I
Yeah.
don't know. I
It's so mid to like be
yeah
looping ot otters with prowess and
yeah just bounce and then you still have to spend four
like
mana
it's
to pick it
so
back up.
slow. Like
It's
it's
so
crazy slow.
slow. So like I don't know. I don't. I was surprised that this one was gone. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
This
was
one
this.
is a bit of a head scratcher for me. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what they were worried about taking over the metagame with like do they think that standard would be all about the the otters and this town hit it big enough if they didn't make this ban? Like what were they worried about?
I don't
Um
know.
and
I
they explained it and I still don't really get it because
I
they
don't
basically
fully
said
get
just what
it.
you said it's good
Yeah.
with Storm Chaser's talent. They did say that they think it might have been a design mistake to let it bounce anything, and that's
Sure.
it's a little
Hmm.
too flexible, which is
Hmm.
like, yeah, okay, it
Yeah.
is.
But it's 5 mana that then costs two. Obviously, but you have to target your own
Right,
things.
like
So
the
you want it
deck
to.
building constraint is real.
It's
You have to
real.
have something you want to bounce back, and
Yeah,
that's
and so
not trivial.
you need it to be anything so that you don't feel like a dipshit like bouncing something good that's yours. Like
Yeah.
you need it to do that. Otherwise, the card is non-functional.
Like when
So
my opponent's turn 3 or 4 or whatever is like, haha, bounce my thing, bounce your thing, and play this to get another otter. I'm like, okay. Like
mhm.
that feels like a totally reasonable
That's a normal
turn
Magic
four
play.
play in standard. Like that feels
Cool.
totally acceptable.
Yeah.
You bounced my thing. Like I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know.
I don't. I really don't know. This one definitely is the one that I just don't get.
They were obviously worried about Pixie, right? They were worried that
Hmm.
after all these bans, it's just going to be Pixie variants. And
Hmm.
they had Orzhov and they had Esper, and maybe they were
Yeah.
worried it's just going to be like Azorius Pixie. They're like,
Absolutely.
let's just make sure that none of those are too good and just
Yeah.
immediately replace everything. So they had to hit something that would be in all of like either a card that's in all those decks or just two cards, like a black one and a blue one,
Yeah.
and just make sure
I
whatever you pair
guess
with Pixie, it's not too good. But like, I don't know. I don't think maybe
I.
I just haven't seen it or I'm not playing at a high enough level. Like for
Mhm.
these pro players that are saying it's the best card in standard, and then these
I mean,
other
that
ex-pro
was a while
players.
ago. I will say that was okay. That was probably like November, where people were
Sure,
playing
sure, but like I
Demir.
don't I think I've ever been of that opinion. And these ex-pro players also agreeing it probably should go.
Hmm.
Maybe they're right. I don't get it. I don't have a lot to say about this one because I'm like I don't care because I was never going to play this card and so it's fine.
Yeah.
But like the coming off the back of we got rid of this other enchantment because it's a sucky play pattern and then going to this one that has kind of a cool and then being like we banned it because there's this cool play pattern. I'm like
Hmm.
that part felt a little weird to me.
Yeah. Uh, the one thing I will say with all the bands, though, just guys, as like wrapping up this, is that it is quite interesting that majority of them are just uncommons.
Mhm.
Like
I know I only got
most,
like 8 wild cards when I logged in. I was like, really? There are 7 cards banned.
yeah, and it's like they're like all just these uncommon cards, with Hopeless Nightmare being like a common. So,
Yeah,
and I think that that's interesting in a way that you can tell that they've been pushing. This is, hey, hot take. Wizards is making standard more affordable on Arena because look at all the cards that were integral for all these decks that needed to be banned that were uncommons. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? Wow. It's not like all these mythics and everything and blah 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 blah. The good cards that matter in these decks are uncommon. Just want to throw that out. So,
yeah. Although, I think there's a mythic rare that should have been banned,
it's true. It's true.
but that would replace the rare. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, would you rather have the rare or the mythic wild card?
the rare.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah. I know your wild card collection, Jeff. I know
Yeah,
you'd rather have the rares.
yeah,
But with that, so with all those cards being banned, what are we seeing in standard now? Obviously, it's only been a couple days. Um, and the initial thing, just like we were talking about all evening, is that go back to old decks that did not get any cards banned from them.
yeah. Well, it's hard to do.
It's really hard to do because there's what, 5 decks that got cards banned from it, basically 4 or 5. Like that's a ton of the metagame.
Yeah,
But I will say that what I was seeing, I only got to really play today and a little bit last night, but the majority of decks that I'm seeing are just people playing versions of the what they were playing before, just without the ban cards. They're just like, oh,
yeah,
okay, I'm playing mono red more burn focused now, as opposed to combat tricky stuff. Or it's like, oh, I'm playing. I saw a little bit less Is It Prowess, but like I still saw a bunch of pixie decks that were like, we're just not playing Hopeless Nightmare anymore. And I
yeah.
think they're wrong.
And
But
this town.
in this time, yeah.
Yeah,
So the only deck of obviously you're not seeing is a Boyla's Awakening because that's gone.
right. Before the bans, I played against Yuna, like Enchantment, Reanimator, whatever, every other match, or like well,
Hmm.
maybe one in every 3 matches. And after the bans, with obviously them getting rid of Up the Beanstalk, I'm playing against Yuna once every 2 or 3 matches. So
Yes.
they didn't care. They just cut Up the Beanstalk from that and
Hmm.
went on their merry way. The deck is much weaker
Hmm.
because Up the Beanstalk was stupid in that deck. But I'm still playing against a lot of Yuna. I'm
Yes.
actually playing against Golgari. Like, I mean, granted, I had one night. Like, the
No,
bans
but
took into effect last
exactly
night.
what you're saying is what I wanted to talk about. So,
Yeah. But I played against Golgari mid range for the first
hmm.
time in very long time, and I easily defeated it every time. Every time, it still seems like it might not be the best, but people are going back to that. Demir I actually played against Demir mid range. That's a
Hmm.
throwback. I forgot about
That's
that
the
deck, and
yeah.
I was like, I got Fairy Masterminded.
Hmm.
What year is it? And that deck seemed pretty good actually. And I was like, did people just forget that this deck is solid?
I think it just wasn't doing nearly as well. And they're playing Cecil now in that deck, which is pretty interesting. Where it's like turn one
Oh yeah,
Cecil, and so you're like, this like 2/3 that you like don't really want to block, and then they just like Kaito in, and you're like, oh, and then you play a real creature again. You're like, then you recast Cecil instead of just getting like, oh, I'm a 1/1 flyer with like a token, and it's like, I will trade with whatever your card is. If you don't block, I'm going to play a Planeswalker. So
Yeah.
also it's a 2/3, so it's hard to trade that early. So you're just like, God damn it.
I'm glad you brought up Cecil because I actually think I haven't seen it at all. And the
Hmm.
Golgari players I was playing against are old school, like the same
Hmm.
exact 75 you'd probably, or maybe I just didn't see the new stuff, but it felt like the exact same
There
thing.
is a new card in that deck, but let's keep going.
But I think if you're going to build Golgari, you should build Cecil into Dark Confidant and cut
Hmm.
down the thing a little bit and do that whole
Come
thing.
down.
Like,
I mean, that does sound great.
yeah, like those
I.
two are match made in heaven. And so I
Mhm.
think if you're gonna try to do a black base mid range deck, you make it lower to the ground. You start on Cecil and you
And
lets you
play
play Dark
Bob.
Confidant
I do like that idea. That sounds fun.
and green already has the Mosswood Dread Knight, which helps you lose
Hmm.
some life and uh, like there are some ways to get there in black green and then ways to gain that life back later once it's
Ooh,
transformed.
I
So
do like that a lot, actually. That sounds like a lot of fun. I was playing a little bit of Bob in a Roots deck today, because you can
mm,
gain a lot of life through all the different cards that you're playing. And doing the
yeah.
Tyvar thing again and all that, and Bob's around was fun. Um, but no, the new card that's being played in Golgari mid-range is an uncommon from Final Fantasy.
Oh,
One of my favorite uncommons from Final Fantasy. It is Demon Wall because it's a two
oh,
mana
right.
3/3 demon
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
blocks.
I did see that. I forgot.
Yes.
Well, see, in my version, you cut that garbage. You're not playing
No.
the demon package
Oh,
because it's like, how much damage do you take off Dark Confidant when you flip the ritual chamber or whatever that fucking card is called?
you don't lose. Oh yeah. Right. If you hit that, yeah, you're gonna take
Isn't that
8.
like 8?
Yeah. Sorry.
Um,
Yeah. So you just don't play Bob then. In the bigger demon version, don't play Bob.
yeah, so that's what people are playing right now. Is the big demon version, which is what I think of as old school. It does have that
Yes.
new 3/3 for 2 though. Forgot about that.
Yeah. Like
But
it.
I would play the more low to the ground because Bob's just the better card advantage engine, I think. Um,
I think. Hey, Bob is back. I like. I not only do I like that Bob is in standard, I like that Bob Marr played in the Final Fantasy Pro Tour and was doing pretty great on day one.
he has to, right? Like
Yeah,
Dark
it was.
Confidant's available to him. He has to
Yeah,
play his old copies that
yeah,
have his face on them.
and they were
I
basically
didn't
asked.
see him in the feature match area, but he must
No,
have played
yeah.
played his own face.
I actually don't even know if he was playing himself in the. I think what he could have easily been playing his card,
Yeah.
but when they asked him like, "Oh, what's the one thing that you're like sad about with this?" He's like, I was hoping that I would be better, and Bob would be a good card in standard. It's not that great.
I think after the bans though,
I think it
let's
does
talk,
get
Bob.
quite a bit better. I think Bob is quite a bit better now.
And I want to try him with the Cecil or Cecil or whatever because I think that's a good match. I can imagine that. And he is great in Aristocrats because
That's
Aristocrats is all so cheap and gains life like easily.
that
So
is true. Um, okay, that is interesting. Let's see. Yeah, Bob Marr was not playing Dark Confidant
come
because
on, Bob.
he was actually
You
playing a
have to.
much. You know what he guess what deck he was playing in standard?
I don't know. Is it prowess?
No, he was playing Azorius Omniscience.
Okay.
So
50-50 shot. Come on, Bob.
come on, Bob.
Um,
Uh, but anyway, I do like all those. I will say I was playing some Unidex today,
mm,
and I don't really like them. After playing them and losing a lot, I was like, I don't enjoy this very much. But the one that was the most fun was Ash Lizzle, who's a streamer, made a deck. This was pre-ban. This deck was made, but it's a Naya version of the deck where
mm,
it's a
okay.
lot of red cards and you're playing. It's a lot more aggressive. You're playing like Lightning Helix, but you're also playing like FOMO, which helps you discard cards to be able to do that. You are just like playing Screaming Nemesis. You're playing the big thing is that you have Yuna and you're playing Overlord of the Boiler Bilges because when it comes back after it's reanimated, you get to dome somebody for 4 and gain 4 life. So it's like a super Lightning Helix,
Yeah.
and that's a lot more fun in my opinion.
Okay, so I ran into this deck a bunch of times last
Okay,
night, and I was like, was this like a Croaky's deck or something? Like, what's
it was
going
Ash
on?
Lizzle, yeah.
Everyone's immediately on the same list. And the first time I played against it, I just kind of ran them over and they just had like 3 or 4, like they had like a 4 Lightning Helix hand. So I
Oh,
was like, it's some
sure.
sort of weird Naya control list. Like, I'll sideboard to beat that. And then I just got absolutely trounced by the Una package in game
Yeah,
two. And I was like, okay, now I know what we're up against.
yeah.
I think I eked it out in game three, but then when I ran into it later, I was like, oh, I know what deck we're up against. Like,
Hmm.
and it is my sideboard was not well equipped to handle that deck because I'm either like, oh, it's a Una deck, side in the Una stuff, but I kind of play like Leyline of the Void, and it's pretty
Hmm.
terrible if they have the aggro draw. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to guess which draw you're gonna have, like which sideboard cards are good. I've been trying to do like a play draw, assume that I'm getting beat down if I'm on the draw, and assume on the
Hmm.
play that I'm ahead. But it does have this kind of like ebb and flow, like this two-pronged approach where it's like I could beat you just by attacking with good creatures like
Hmm.
FOMO and Screaming
And Screaming
Nemesis,
Nemesis, yeah.
or I can combo you out with
Hmm.
Yuna or like pseudo combo, right? So I like that deck. I did pretty well against it, but I think my opponents were making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. I
So
think it's definitely a pretty interesting one. If I went back to Una stuff, I think that's more of what I liked than the slower, bigger play the black card stuff. Those
I liked it too. I
always,
was like, if I was going to play Yuna, I think that's the build I would go with
yeah,
is the red one.
because the rampy ones always seemed way too slow, and like my 1-for-1 removal was just not good enough, and it was always just I was just always losing because I was at 6. They're attacking me with 4 2/2s. I have 1 blocker kind of thing. It's just like,
Yeah.
ugh. So definitely like that red one. Very cool. But yeah, so how is your? I do want to know. I have not seen this list. You talk about it all the time. How is your aristocrats deck going? What's going on with that?
It's good. Yeah, I got it to a place that I'm pretty happy with. Still some tweaking to happen.
Hmm.
But I actually wasn't even playing that last night. I
Oh,
I'm back on an old favorite, and I'm just riding high on this one. I'm playing a completely revamped and brand new version of Red Black Inti because there's a card that I just totally missed when we did our whole discussion of Tarkir Dragonstorm. Maybe we mentioned it in passing and then I just forgot about its existence. And then I came across it like recently and was like, what the fuck? This card's amazing. And I need to play this in my red black discard based aggro deck right now. And that card is Tursa Light Shatter,
yes.
which is just like absolutely wild, this deck. And
Hmm.
I can't believe I wasn't playing it.
I
So
swear we talked about Tursa. Did we not talk about Tursa?
I think I remember reading it and like mentioning it, but I wonder
Hmm.
if that was like it during preview season,
I think it
and
was
then I got overwhelmed with stuff, and then
possibly we were talking about it because people have been playing it in Oculus
right.
instead of Kiora. That like the Foundation's
Oh,
Kiora got
that
pushed
is what we were
away,
talking about. And we're probably like,
and
ah, it'd probably be pretty good with Inti too.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I think someone smoked me with it out of the Oculus list. I was like, what the
Hmm.
fuck card is this? Like, I forgot about this card. And then I put it in my deck, and sure enough, it's freaking amazing. And then the other one that I just totally like blanked on adding to my deck is Monument of Endurance.
Mm.
And I was just like, oh, so there's just a total absolute engine card for my deck and a perfect 3 drop. Let me just trim all the crazy fat I was doing of like certain cards have to combo together to like, and 4 drops and 5 drops and just like take this down a notch. And
Yeah.
Bloodgast is freaking amazing in the deck, so I'm sorry for ever questioning my love of Bloodgast.
Hey, Bloodgast. We're talking about Bob. Like,
I know,
there's
right?
some
I both those
old
cards I said,
ones.
guys, it's not good enough for standard anymore. These are
Hmm.
ancient cards, and now I'm like playing both of them. But Bloodgast is the thing you want because part of the problem with the deck was like you had to jump through hoops to get stuff back, and now it's just like they just play a land. The
Hmm.
fact that they have haste really matters. So deck's a lot more streamlined. It's a lot more get you dead. The one concession that I had to make in building it is that the best one drops for the deck are Stalactite Stalker and Marauding Mako, and there's no
Mm.
real way around that. You kind of need those have to be your one drops. And you know how much it pains me to play one
Yeah,
drops of
of
different
different.
colors in an
That's
aggro deck.
pretty. That's pretty
But
rough.
here we are.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I've just been really enjoying this deck, and since all the awesome decks got banned, I've been winning a lot more. That's nice too. But I've also been, refining the list and stuff like that. So I'm sure that's
Nice.
the reason that I'm winning
Yeah,
now.
for sure. No, it definitely is. I mean, I've been getting smoked because like I don't play standard enough.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I just like I was watching it a lot because like on the Pro Tour was great. Um, but yeah, I think so, I haven't found the one that's clicking yet.
Hmm.
So still searching for a deck that seems fun enough to stick to for a long period of time. But because before this, I was just playing Is It Prowess because I enjoyed that deck a lot because all the cards were really cheap and fun,
Right.
which is what I like. So
Well, I still think Instant Prowess is an option.
I,
It's just not the de facto S tier best option now.
yeah.
All it lost was like, Corey Steelcolor, Monstrous Rage, and Heartfire Hero. And
Hmm.
I don't even know if it was playing Heartfire
It
Hero.
was not, no, but it was definitely
So
playing the other two.
I've s- I think it's just about finding the right build now, and I think there are different ways to build it, which is kind of to our point and to Jadine's point in the
Hmm.
article of like there are so many just this is the best thing to do. It kind of
Hmm.
restricts deck building space. And now it's like, oh, do we build the deck all in around like Vivi? Is that what
Hmm.
the new Is It Prowess deck is?
Hmm.
Or do we
Or
want to keep it lower to the ground and kind of have Vivi as like an upper end thing and you can morph into the VV deck post board if you want to.
I
Like, what's
like
the best
that.
way?
Yeah, that sounds more my speed
Yeah, I know
of
definitely
like
which one you would lean towards.
the
Yeah.
aggressive one that then maybe
Yeah.
turns into a VV deck. But
And I think
um,
that's, modern day Magic tends to go that way. You want to be linear in game one, and then you
mhm,
want to have the flexibility to sort of adapt in
yeah,
post board. Um, so that's where I'd probably start. I did do the exercise just as like a thought exercise of what if I just had to guess, brand new format.
hmm,
What is the strongest card in standard
I
right
like
now?
this. Okay,
And what should we be building around? So, do you want me to give you my answer while you think, or do you want to just
I will
whatever
not have
comes
it.
up?
I will not have an answer. So I would
Okay.
love to hear what yours is.
Okay, so what I came up with is I think just like if we're just talking raw
Hmm.
power, the best card in standard right now might be stock up.
Yes. Okay, for
So,
sure.
how do we build the best stock up deck? And I
Hmm.
think that would be a good starting point if you wanted to just attack the format. Is it a control deck?
Hmm.
Is it prowess? Like, do you just have a different version of is it now that you're a lot more about stock up? Because stock up was in the previous lists, but it felt more like a if I can't do the whole like Corey Steelcutter, you're dead
It
thing, I just
really
stock up until I can.
that's
Uh,
really what it felt like because it was like, okay, am I taking a turn off to stock up so that next
Right.
turn I can
And
win? Yeah,
when they did it, I'd be like, oh, phew. All they
I
did was,
was. Yeah,
look at
exactly.
a bunch of cards, take
Cards.
the best two. That's it. Phew.
Yeah.
I don't just lose the game. Um, but I think Stock Up's just kind of a crazy card. And so if I was trying to attack the format, like at a pro tour next week or something, and all these bans just happen, I'm like, what do we do? I'd probably be like, narrow my focus. Let's figure out what the best Stock Up deck is.
Yeah. I feel like it's a control deck because that card looks like a control card to me, like all
Yeah.
over it. Um, and so I am expecting a lot more control lists. I haven't seen them yet, but
I wouldn't be surprised if the answer is like either is it or Jeskai though, because I feel like red is even with these bands, red is just a really strong color.
well, I feel like Jeskai because Shiko is such a good card for these like
I
control
do like
decks. Like
Shiko.
you want to be, you can play Lightning Helix. There's a lot of great control cards that you get to play, and
I
Stockton
did
is just
play
like,
against a Shiko deck actually.
mhm.
I was like, oh, I forgot about this fucking deck. I used to
Yeah.
like this deck a lot. For a brief window. They were playing a new card. What was the new card? It was from Final Fantasy. It was a creature
Hmm.
that is a 3/4 and he turns into a phoenix.
Oh, Joshua, the
Yeah.
Phoenix down or dominant. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Um,
I understand why they were playing it. It seemed bad against me. Like it was just like I don't know
I
if your deck wants this rando 3/4.
not in that type of deck. I don't. Not in a control
Like
deck.
I understand what you're going for, but like part of the strength of the deck is you only had two creatures, Jeff
Yes.
Bezos and
Hmm.
Chico. And
Jeff Bezos.
and those are like notoriously hard to kind of interact with profitably because they
Yeah.
just and so you have this weird thing
Well, you're
going
playing
on.
against Jeff Bezos. How are you going to
Yeah,
interact
like
with him
just,
profitably?
yeah, exactly. Um,
He's talking about Beza the bounding, whatever,
of course,
bountiful
yeah.
something.
And,
I just
but I
forget
think
that's what you. I forget
the
that you
first
call it that
episode.
every time.
Well, the first time it was an accident. You're like Bezos. What the hell are you talking about? So now I've just been leaning into it. But
I just forget every time. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Jeff Bezos, what are you talking about?
You hate that guy. um,
Um, yeah, you just have to like make snide remarks about his wedding or
or whatever.
whatever is going on in pop culture. Um, but these control decks that have like one or two good creatures are tough to deal with because you don't know whether you side in creature removal or not. Like I think we've all
Hmm.
been there where you're like, do I side in? Do I keep the stuff that kills
Hmm.
Shiko, or do I just kind of hope like
They don't.
Shiko
It's
free
gone.
stock up is not going to happen to me? Like, do I
Hmm.
just hope that that's not the case? Because I don't want to sit there with a bunch of go for the throats in my hand against a control deck. And so I feel like adding a bunch of Joshuas to it just is like opening up all that removal that now
Yeah.
trades relatively profitably. Like, yeah, sure, they held their like they sculpted their hand off the Joshua and got some stuff in the yard. But it's I don't feel like I got two for one when I kill the Joshua or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of like, why are you playing Joshua in that? If you're trying to sculpt your hand in the same way, why don't you play Tursa or something like that, who does a similar thing, also attacks and then
Just a stronger card, I think.
plays spells for free.
Yeah.
Um, Joshua is more of a like I was playing Joshua in that Una deck because you get to dump cards that you want into the
Right. And
yard
the Naya
because
unit, that makes
yeah,
sense. It's like the perfect
and
fit.
the
Except
big
that it's the backside that's an enchantment. You're like, fuck.
yeah, exactly. That's kind of hard part. But the thing about the backside is that when you flip it, the final chapter is you get to reanimate creatures equal to six
Right,
mana
right.
value, which is a way to bring Yuna from the graveyard back. Now it's probably dead by the time that that happens, but I love Joshua. I take it in draft all the time. It's one of my favorite cards.
I would think it's a super strong card in
But it
draft,
does
right?
not look like a control card to me at all.
No. And I would play it in my Inti deck if it was red black.
Yeah,
Like if I didn't, I'm not going to splash white for it.
no.
But I think it's just worse than Tursa, to be honest. So
I Yeah, you're probably right. Well, Tursa is much more aggressive. Joshua is way slow.
yeah, the 3/4s for three is
It's nice.
it's nice because the
three
four it
four
doesn't it survives a lot of stuff.
it does.
Um, but I don't know. I didn't have when they would spend their turn three to do that instead of like
Hmm.
I don't know stock
Stock up.
up.
Yeah,
I was like
right.
cha-ching.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
yeah,
So
Like all my stuff's bigger than that, or has menace, or like whatever. I could just kill
yeah,
it. Like there's just
yeah. The kill it when you try to transform it, that's the biggest issue.
yeah.
Also, you just
That's
never
an
want to try
oof.
to transform it.
That's right. So you're just are you that interested in a 3/4 that like loots for
Yeah,
3 in standard? I don't know.
we have a bunch
It's
of cards that loot like
yeah,
that are 3 mana, that are different colors, that aren't 2 colors, right?
yeah.
So
But anyways, yes, I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot about that Jeskai control deck, and I did
mhm.
play against it once last night and was like, I liked this deck. I wouldn't be playing these Joshuas, but I do
Yes,
remember this deck and like,
I definitely think you should cut the Joshuas from that. But you'd probably play like Shiko and Meringue River region and stuff, and then you can play your counter spell that is counter for 2 or 4 if you have the dragon and blah blah blah
right.
blah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Get your Lightning
definitely
Helixes.
yes, so fun, so good.
Yeah, Shiko plus Helix, I think, was the real. Obviously, Shiko plus stock up is what you're like. Yeah,
Really stoked on. Yeah, that's the money.
that's the flex. But
But Shiko
I
Helix
think
is nothing to like. It's
yeah,
pretty
it
nice,
brings back those old like Bolt Snap Bolt days.
so nice. Um, the one thing I will say that like I do want to give another crack at trying to play Lightning Army of One in Standard
There we go.
because I put together something that was pretty bad. I wanted to play all the Lightning cards in Standard just because it just sounded like a blast to me. Um,
And that
and there,
wasn't competitive?
well, Lightning Helix,
Lightning in the
Lightning
name tribal.
Strike, Lightning Army of
It's true, they're
One.
all pretty good cards.
There's also a mono red lightning that was from the starter decks, which is also at standard legal that lets you like draw cards when you hit them. So
Okay.
there's a lot of lightning stuff out there, but basically like a Boros aggro deck, which I've seen a lot of like aggressive decks go to the Boros place where they're like they just want to put a Sheltered by Ghost on their hired claw, basically, and that's like what
Yeah.
they're doing, which I'm not in love with. But if it means I can also play Lightning, I don't hate Sheltered by Ghosts.
Yeah.
That's a card I like. So
I mean, it's a strong card.
yeah, it is. So anyway,
Um,
there could be something there. We could find some fun.
Glad you brought that up because there's one more deck that I wanted to talk about that I totally forgot
Ooh,
about until
okay.
now. Um, and this deck absolutely whooped my ass a couple of
Mm.
times last night. So and I was like, maybe this is just the best deck. Um,
Ooh.
but that's our good old friend, Boros Convoke.
Whoa,
I was
really?
I was not ready for this deck, and I had nothing. I had nothing to deal with what they were doing, and they were just like one drop, the classic like
Blow my thing
turn
up,
this
make a
into
bunch of
three
dudes.
goblins, play
Yeah.
this. Like the best I could do was sideboard in. Um, I'll never remember the name of this card, but it's there's Dreams of Steel and Oil,
Yes.
and then there's a version of that that has cycling.
Oh yeah, the
I
one from
play that
Aether
one
Drift. Yeah,
because
yeah.
I can cycle it. Um, and
Wait,
so
you
I
play the cycling one because you can cycle it? Crazy. That's insane.
Yeah, because I have a discard Kindred deck.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think Dreams, there's a slight difference. Like Dreams is better because
Dreams.
you get to also exile something from their graveyard.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
But then this one is like you don't
Mm-hmm,
get to do that. You just look at their hand,
mm-hmm.
then you can cycle it for like 3. And it's never come up that I want to
Yeah.
cycle my sideboard card, but I was like, yeah, let's throw that in there. Um, because it is one of those cards that's terrible in the late game. So I was like, I'll bring those in and try to pick
Mm-hmm.
off the like Knight Errants or whatever. And that plan did
Yeah.
not work at all. That plan sucked.
That's a rough plan for sure.
So I immediately jammed some Pyroclasms into my sideboard. It was like, we got to do something.
Oh,
We
yes.
got to
That
do something.
that definitely is the first thing I would think. Intimidations tactics is the one that you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, I was thinking about playing Boros Convoke with Lightning just because I want to play Lightning.
You
That's
want to
all I
play
wanted.
Lightning. I want to make the deck weaker.
Hmm. What if they had a
But
3 drop that didn't really synergize with
it
everything?
does
But
not have Convoke.
yeah, what
The only
if
3 drop is
the
the
haste
knight,
one?
the
Yeah.
haste knight. So
Hmm.
yeah, thing.
So
But
I was
yeah,
like,
so I would.
I was thinking, well, lightning is pretty good if the haste knight comes out, but then I have to have 6 mana.
So my opponent absolutely popped off, had a huge board, right? And I was like,
Hmm.
perfect. I have intimidation tactics to snag the knight errant from their hand. And I
Hmm.
cast it, and they just have 2 of those haste, like +1/+0 knight. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I guess I'm fucked. Like,
That's
yeah, that's why this is a bad sideboard plan.
that's horrible. That's so rough. Uh,
Anyways, that deck felt legit. I did get like my opponent was popping. They
hmm.
had the draw every
Hmm.
game. And so I'm like, okay, the weakness of the deck is when it stumbles, it does
Hmm.
nothing. And when it does its thing and is on the play every time, like it looks really good. So, but it was one of those decks that I was like, this deck is legit. It does real
Hmm.
things. It is powerful, and I forgot entirely about it, to be honest, until someone kicked my ass with it. So,
Well, it's so funny because I had forgot about it until I was like, how do I shoehorn lightning into something?
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
I
Boros
must
Convoke?
play Boros. Yeah,
Because, well, I guess half of it was also, if I'm playing Boros, why am I not just playing Boros Convoke? Why am I forcing
right.
myself
Yeah.
to play this other card? But I'm still working on it, but so far, early happy hour stuff looks like lightning is not in the bottle or in standard. But
I love
uh,
that.
but your 3 pointer, I have played Bahamut a couple times in Unidex, so
Yeah, I know. I'm seeing it. And I'm like, yes, this is the
yeah,
reason. This
you
is the
called
reason.
it. Yeah, so we will we'll see if that keeps going, but
I mostly lose
early
to the other one that like kills something, and then if it hits me, I'm dead.
Primal Odin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, I've often been playing the Knights of the Round, which is like the 8 mana white one that like when it comes down, it makes a bunch of knights, but then
Oh
they
yeah.
immediately like exile it. I'm like, how? That's
Every
not
time, just
fair.
I was ready for that.
Yeah, they're like, and it's gone. I'm like,
See, I
what
always
the?
have no answer to that shit. I'm just like, I guess you got me.
Mhm.
Like,
I guess you're gonna
I,
make a million knights, and they're all indestructible at the
I
end of it.
actually lost to the Abzan Unitech uh just the other night when with them basically doing dick all and
Hmm.
eventually just playing Primal Odin. And I'm sitting there with a bunch of like blood ghasts, and I'm like, well, I guess I
I went,
lose.
yeah,
Like I
I,
can't block.
yeah.
Fuck me.
God,
And they
that's
were
so
at like
funny.
8 or something, and I had 3 blood casts. So I'm just like,
It's like,
well,
damn it. That's so
good
funny.
game. It's like 26-8, but
I will say with that card in general, I remember in draft there was one time where I had Primal Odin and I also had or summon Odin Primal Garuda, and Garuda is the one that like it deals 4 damage to a tapped creature, but then the second 2 chapters is it gives a creature +1/+0 and flying, and so I just
Ooh,
gave Primal Odin flying, went over
Splinter Twin,
everybody.
baby.
Just sniped him. It was so good.
Every
Because it
all the
was
chapters have to line up appropriately,
it was
but I love
perfect.
it.
It was so funny because I didn't exactly know what was happening until when it did. I was like, oh shit, wait, I get to do this.
Oh,
This is
oh,
so fun.
yeah.
Oh, it was
That's
so
awesome.
funny. Yeah. That's a fun card. Any card that just says your opponent loses the game is hilarious.
Yeah.
Though I do want them to change the wording of loses the game to destroy target opponent. I still think that that's pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
Though I guess that would put a trigger on the stack and you could like interact with it maybe, but
Yeah.
destroying an opponent just sounds hilarious.
Destroy an opponent of your choice.
Yes,
Wait,
yeah,
no, that's not right.
yeah. Yeah, what is legacy weapon? Does it destroy? It just kills somebody, right? But it yeah, Oh no, it doesn't kill somebody. What's the card? Oh, Door to Nothingness. That's what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, doesn't that just say? Oh yeah, that says like target player loses the game or something, right?
Yeah, it says target player loses the game. Not as fun as destroy target player.
Destroy
Uh,
target player. Yeah, that would be better.
yeah,
Odin should be like when it deals combat damage to a player, destroy that player.
you destroy that player. Uh, like obviously, I know it doesn't make any sense in the game or whatever, but
It's like I think I have to destroy you now.
yeah,
You don't lose this game.
you
Like
just come
that's
like,
not what it says.
yeah, no, no, you don't. The game is still going, but I
Yeah.
destroy you.
Yeah.
There's like a slew of murders after this card's printed
Or the old school exile stuff, like remove that player from the game.
from the game. Yeah, they go to the Shadow Realm.
You stand over there.
Yeah, yeah. You have to be outside of the convention hall.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, Jeff, standard looks interesting and bright, and this is just a month shakeup before we have another shakeup in rotation at the beginning of August.
I know this already feels like rotation because I'm playing
Yeah.
against a bunch of other and what happens with rotation is old decks you forgot about getting new pieces and like people want to try them out and so you
Hmm.
see all these old decks resurface like it felt exactly like a like rotation just happened when I jumped in last night
Yeah.
because I was playing against one deck that was the same, which is Yuna,
Hmm.
and then everything else was like a
Different
blast
or
from the
old.
past
Yeah.
or completely new in some
Hmm.
cases.
It's
Yeah, it's
cool.
fun.
The next banned and restricted announcement is scheduled for November 24th. And is also the funny thing, like, I don't know how they're going to do banned and like the announcements, if it's going to be like 6 months apart from each other, or like they purposely did this one right before rotation, and then November 24th is right before what rotation is going to be in the future, right?
Right.
Because we're going to rotate in August, but we won't rotate again until 2027.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So we're skipping the 2026 one. Going into 2027, that will be the rotation. The only question I have actually is, does rotation, this is kind of end of the episode stuff, me asking questions. I don't really know.
Okay.
So we know that they're going to start doing rotation with the years, so it makes sense. But
Hmm.
is it going to be on the actual year, or is it going to be the beginning of the set year?
I assume, oh, like, is it going to be January 1st or like
Yes.
January 27th?
Yeah.
I assume the latter is kind of how I
Hmm.
was guessing.
That's what I
Uh,
was also thinking, but at the same time, I was like, wouldn't it just be easier if you're like, it's
yeah,
2027, you can no longer play cards from whatever,
that would be
2024.
that would make sense, actually.
It's just like if the card was printed in this year, you can't play it.
The only difference is like you have a 3 week or to a month window where
Of
it's smaller, right? Like
yeah,
if you do it that way.
which would be fun because in the
I
pro
think it would be
tours,
fun.
because
Yeah.
then the pro tour is not going to happen until after the set comes out, so it doesn't really matter,
Right.
right? So
For
it would just be
me, that's a positive, but
yes.
whether they want to do that from their standpoint, I don't know.
It would be the first time that they would be doing rotation without a new set coming out.
Yeah,
So
right.
probably
Like
not the
the fact
case.
that the new set comes in and like pushes out the old set kind of does make sense, I
Yeah.
guess. But
But if they're going by years instead and it's focused on years,
it's true. They're changing it up, so
they
maybe
are
they're
changing it
gonna
up. I don't have high hopes that that's actually what's going to happen, but
yeah.
it would make it extremely clear.
That's true. It like in terms of clarity, it's like, hey,
Yeah,
if this is the year, these are the legal sets.
that's it.
Yeah.
If this card was printed in this year, you can't play it anymore. Um, but also, like, how many tournaments are happening in the beginning of January? Like,
Yeah,
though I
I don't
guess
know.
usually
One,
this
two per weekend.
something like that. I don't know. Anyway, We shall see. We'll
Yeah.
wait for another announcement. It's probably just going to be whenever the site comes out, but it would be cool. It could be cool.
But again, the theme of the episode is you keep reminding me of stuff I wanted to say. And so that brings up a thought,
Mm.
which was when you're talking about like banned and restricted rotations. And so typically they have this, okay, we do it at this time of year,
Hmm.
but we reserve the right to like emergency ban stuff, or they have like
Hmm.
windows where they can emergency ban stuff. And I just wanted to call out something interesting that they wrote, that Jadine wrote in that article, which was they believe Corey Steele Cutter was powerful enough to get one of those emergency bans. It
Right.
just so happens to line up that they were going to do this ban announcement anyways. So
Hmm.
they just did it now. But they wanted to like make it clear. They're like, hey, we think this one was one of our
One of
oopsies
those.
that like
Gotcha.
we would have banned right away. Um, anyways. And so we're just
Yeah.
banning it
It's like
now.
we were so close to another one that we're like, might as well just let the pro tour have to
Yeah,
deal
so
with
it
it.
got like the Omnath treatment or whatever of like,
Yes.
hey, we acknowledge this may have been a little bit pushed for standard.
Yeah. God, Omnath. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. See, that's like my bar for too good for
Hmm.
standard is when they printed Omnath. So I'm like, Core Steel Cutter, yeah, I guess it's
Hmm.
pretty good, but like
Yeah. It's like,
it's
does it
nothing
do a
like
million
that.
things and like
Yeah.
just so annoying? Yeah. Ugh. And play a
Doesn't just
million.
like single-handedly win the game with no help from other cards
Yeah.
other than lands.
Other than lands, yes. Ugh. Man, Omnath, what a card. But yeah. Anyway, Jeff, are we ready to go to last call?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on and talk about this beer we had this evening. This Caldera, the hot pepper red ale. So, as always, rate beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. However, this has nothing to do with what tier you're in currently. It's just a fun way to rate beers. So, don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers, they're trash. They're horrible. We hate them. We pour them on the ground. We spit on them. Blech.
Yeah, silver beers are bad. They're basically just, poorly made beers or just kind of uninteresting.
Yeah. Gold beers are fine, but we wouldn't really drink them again.
Platinum is solid. We would totally drink them again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. We like these a lot, and we share them with your friends.
Mythic, these are the best of the best. These are the top of the line in the beer world. These are the this town ain't big enough of the beer scene.
Jesus Christ.
Just like can't
That's
can't get better.
yeah. Jeff. All right. I've been waiting all episode. I'm so excited. What did you think about this hot pepper red ale? Did it redeem the pepper beer name?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So let me expand on that.
All right. I
Um,
think I know what you're gonna say, but I'm excited.
I liked the beer. So in that
Hmm.
respect, yes. Um, but the pepper touch, I don't know how to describe it. It was there. I noticed
Hmm.
it for sure. Like I'm not saying I didn't taste any hot peppers in this, but it was kind of like a bit of a flavor at the end, like kind of a
Yes.
finishing flavor. I don't think the beer was spicy.
No. No. No.
Like the beer wasn't,
The bands were spicy. The beer not spicy.
yeah, the beer wasn't spicy, but it definitely
Hmm.
had that kind of like chili pepper finish. And
Hmm.
it was pretty, for me, it was pretty light, but it just kind of enough to make me notice it. And I would say if it didn't tell me that it was a hot pepper, I would have noticed it too. Like
I
I could pick
that's
up that.
that's what I was gonna say too. Is that like the fact that they said smoky on this? Thank God that
Yeah,
they did because yes, that's one of the number one things you could really taste in this.
totally.
But
Yeah,
when the
smoky.
smoke kind of comes down, there's a little bit of that pepper. Like it's the tiniest little thing where it's like there's no way you're gonna drink this beer and be like, okay, I
Yeah,
need. There's
need
nothing
some
like
water.
that.
Yeah.
But it does give you a little teeny. bit of like it reminds you of eating hot sauce, but has none of the side effects.
Yeah. And this is kind of what I've been saying about these beers is like I don't really want spicy beer. I like
Hmm.
spicy food and I
Yes.
like beer. And sometimes I, due to poor judgment, enjoy those things together.
Yes.
But I don't actually want that in the same can.
Yeah.
And this wasn't that. It wasn't a
Hmm.
spicy. And I was always like, they should take the flavor of chili and like
Hmm.
put that, and maybe that'd be good. And that's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
But it was a light touch on that for
It's
sure.
very, very light. And it's exactly what they did with the maple one we had tasted, where it's like,
Right.
it's mostly a red ale, and then there's a little bit at the end. And it seems like their touch when they're going for weird beers is they take red ales. They're like, you know what? Let's take a red and add a
Yeah.
little bit to it, as opposed to an IPA.
Right. Take something that just tastes fundamentally great and just
Hmm.
sprinkle in this flavor that people like into
Yes,
it.
exactly. And not having, because IPAs already have a very strong flavor. So
Right.
you're never having to kind of battle between, man, I'm trying to be able to put this spicy or this pepper flavor in here, but the hops are always battling it. So now you have to add way too many and it goes all overboard. Instead, take something that is like classically delicious and you can add little bits of it and it'll come through.
Yeah.
Which I think I like this. I
It,
like
it was
it.
enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, would I give this to someone and be like, hey, if this is a hot pepper beer, would they be disappointed? Probably.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't know if it's redeemed, like, yes and no, because
Mm-hmm.
yes, I liked this beer and it is,
Mm-hmm.
I acknowledge that it is a like chili pepper, hot pepper beer.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if people who aren't beer drinkers would
Would.
appreciate this as a hot pepper
Yeah.
beer. Like, there's no like jalapeno or habanero, those flavors that you know. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't spicy. It's just like a mild, like a very, the smokiness comes through, and then you definitely get the chili pepper,
Yeah.
but it's not kind of in your face. And so
So that's what makes it
I,
hard. Like,
yeah,
yes, I would definitely drink this again, and I would recommend this to people who are like us. Like I
right,
could give this to some of our brewer friends and be like, "Hey, you know all those stupid
right,
pepper beers that we don't like? This
yeah,
one's a good one." But you have to get someone who's tasted a pepper beer before, not someone who hasn't. If they've never tasted a beer that has jalapenos or whatever in it, they're
right,
not going to get this beer and be excited by it. Anyone who's like, no way, man, I'm not like drinking those anymore. That's
yeah.
who what
That's who
this is
you
for.
give this to.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is why I gave it to you. Well, I also was hoping it was good. I did not taste it
Right.
before, so I did not know.
There's also part of me that's like, how much of this is like, this is just a really nice, well-made red ale.
Yeah, a
And
smoky
like,
red ale. Like I'm never gonna say no to a smoky red ale.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
will
And
say
like, did the chili
steadfast.
pepper flavor add that much to it, or it would
Yeah.
have had sort of the same amount of enjoyment?
Well, I'm also wondering how much of the smoky is coming from the peppers because oftentimes you just, you put the peppers on flames and then you just scrape off the, um, whatever, the charred bits. And then that's like what you're making your mole or whatever out of. So
Right.
that could have been one of the ways that they got the peppers in there. So the smoke could have been much more involved with the peppers. I just don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe they used like chipotle peppers or something, which
Yeah, or something.
naturally have that
That's the
because
smoky
they're
flavors.
because they're dried, they have that smoky kind of
Yeah.
vibe to them.
So I don't know. But as far as beers go, if we're just rating this as a beer that was tasty, how do we feel? I will start. I'm going to go probably higher, I think, than you.
Hmm.
I will probably put this at like, I'm going to give this diamond because it was supposed to be a joke beer for you because I picked it up because I know you hate these and it
Yeah.
ended up being really tasty and a
Yeah.
fun one that I can actually show off to people. And if I go back, I'm gonna pick this up. So that is my plan with this. Because I was full on prepared to think that this is shitty and bad.
Totally.
And Steadfast continues to knock these out of the park. Like every single time I think the beer is going to be really bad, it's actually delicious.
Yeah.
And damn, you guys know how to just like give a little pinch of flavor in there. So diamond for this one for me.
I was deciding between platinum and diamond. I think the only reservation is like, again, is this beer better because of the hot pepper blend that they put in there? Or is like, would I've just really loved the
True.
base red ale that they made, and
That
like without the novelty kind of thing.
yeah.
And you know what though, like that's probably just overthinking it at this point. It's a beer. I got the hot peppers that they were
Mhm.
claiming. I got the smokiness that they were claiming, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll just give it diamond too. I think
All right.
that's fair.
Yeah, I think like the reason that I even like am interested in Steadfast at all. First of all, well, they do have Commander Nights, so that's one thing. I've never
Oh,
been
right.
to one of
Right.
them, but I do know that they play Magic there.
That's cool.
But there's a brown ale, a smoked brown ale that they made. That
Oh
I thought
yeah,
was,
you were telling me.
I thought
Yeah.
was fantastic. So I was like, I got to go there. They did not have that specific beer, but they had some other things. And the fact that this one reminded me of that one a little bit. Like
Mm.
imagine this beer but a little bit sweeter and like brown. Like that's what we're
And
getting.
like smoky, but no chili, I
But
guess.
no
Like,
chili. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like sweeter and smoky. It
Ooh,
was
that could be good.
nice. So anyway,
Basically,
that
kind of mashing up the two, be it like the honey with the smoky
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Or sorry,
So
maple, right? Maple, the maple
yeah,
one.
like the maple one. Yeah, yeah. I thought you were going for like a bear thing, like Smokey the Bear, because bears like honey, and so like you want
No,
smoky
no, I
and
was just saying like
honey.
the two beers I've had from them, one was like a little
Hmm.
sweet with the maple and one was
Yeah,
a little smoky.
boom, boom. So, but anyway, Steadfast quickly climbing to
I'm impressed. I want to just
yeah,
try like if they make just a red ale or just a brown ale. Like
yeah. Well, stay
with
tuned because we
no.
do have an amber in the fridge, so
Okay, now I'm
you
excited for that.
know, pretty exciting. Anyway, Steadfast, pretty sweet. Anyway, folks, this has been a long episode, but I've had a great time discussing bands and
Yeah,
talking
don't
about
blame us. They
standard.
banned so many cards, you know.
I know exactly. Anyway, it's time for closing time. As always, you can reach us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Best you can also find us on Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
Yeah, that's right. You can find me personally if you want to talk to me. I'm the regular underscore Zach on most places or regular underscore Zach. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is our Discord channel. Come hang out. Tell us what you have been playing in this new standard. Trust me, we want to see deck lists. This is like the crazy deck list hungry time. So
Hmm.
come post your deck list. You'll get lots of people being like, that's awesome, and trying it out. So it's a great thing to do. And we also have a Arena Cube draft, only uses common and uncommon wild cards. It's a really awesome cube, and we run that once a month. So jump into our Discord channel and the link in the show notes and
Hmm.
play some cube with us.
That is right. The Cube is next week. So if you're listening to it, it is Wednesday, the 9th of July. So come by, play some Cube with us. It's a great time. Also, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there as well. All the places. Mostly, we just want to hear what you think about the show, as long as it's good. If you don't like the show, don't do that. Anyway, this has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that standard is now 100% completely fixed. So go play it.
Good night. All right, that's fine.